Hello, and welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills. I'm your host, Tia Young. Our guest today is a Small Business Administration official. He serves as the Regional Manager, Office of International Trade, Export Solutions Group of the Mid-Atlantic region, which includes D.C., Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland. Today, we are going to talk about going global. Our guest has almost 32 years of international trade finance, trade credit, insurance, and international corporate credit risk management experience. He has served the Export-Import Bank of the United States and other private sector organizations, specializing in asset-based lending, corporate credit card risk management, and global capital market origination. His office is in the Northern Virginia Export Assistance Center in Arlington, Virginia. Please welcome Mr. Bill Houck to Skills to Pay the Bills. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Thank you, Tia. I'm good. And you?
Good. It's good to see you back. I think it's been a couple of years.
It has been, yes. Yes, it's good to be back.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's get started.
Okay.
Bill, some of our viewers are seasonal, international trader types. But there are others who are thinking about going into the export business. Is this a field that you can just jump into, that it's easy to get into? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It's not. I mean, in our industry, we call it being export ready. And the basic foundation for being export ready is you have a business that is selling a good or service successfully in the United States already. You've been in business long enough to have established management, and management has to be totally dedicated to going global, to taking their goods or services global, because it does take quite a bit of effort to find markets, find new buyers, making sure that you can perform overseas, you can provide the same service for products or warranties. You can provide the same type of service if you're providing, some type of, professional service. So there's a lot that go into it. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it. They need to develop a business plan. So it's almost like starting the whole business over again, because you're dealing with with up to 100 different countries.
Wow. Now, so we're all on the same page. Can you give us an SBA definition between the difference of exporting and importing?
Well, obviously, exporting is you're taking a good and service and shipping it from the United States to a foreign customer. And importing, you are buying either a good or a service from outside the United States and bringing it into the United States.
Right. In your estimation, how can one determine whether or not they are ready or would be a good candidate for this type of business?
Going back to what I was saying before, do they have management buy-in? Do they have the financial resources to expend capital to go after opportunities overseas? Do they have the technical capability? Have they done the legal legal work to make sure that their contracts are viable overseas? So there's a lot that goes into it. A company can go to export.gov, or they can search Export Readiness Questionnaire, which I shared with you earlier. It's nine questions. If they score high, meaning 75% or greater, they're probably on their way to establishing or making an appointment with my office, with the U.S. Export Assistance Center, and talking with the U.S. Commercial Service about starting to find customers overseas.
Well, Bill, talking about that little quiz with those 9 questions, I took that quiz and I flunked it.
Well, you're not expert ready yet.
I know. I could not pass it. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of go over the questions a little bit, and maybe I don't know that we'll get to all 9, but I'm going to go over some of these questions. Yeah. Sure. It says, the first one says, does your company have a product or service that has been successfully sold in the domestic marketplace? So to me, it sounds like you already would have had to have a successful business operating.
Correct.
To go in, but I missed it. I didn't answer it right.
Yeah. Well, you've
So
got
what
a
would you say?
successful business, but yes, as I said, a company has to have a good or service that they're successfully selling here, because then they know they have the ability to provide the same type of service overseas. If they're starting brand new and they're going overseas, it's just that much more difficult to become profitable in the amount of time it needs to stay in business. So they really need to be established here and doing business here.
Okay. Question number 2. Does your company have, or is your company preparing an international marketing plan with defined goals and strategies? So when I looked at that, I said, okay, I have a business plan, but they're saying an international marketing plan.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe, there's a difference between the two. Can you
Well,
go?
it's going back to kind of scratch. You're looking at multiple countries, multiple types of cultures, different types of ways of conducting business. So you need to develop a business and marketing plan to assure that you're not wasting your time marketing a good or a service to a country that actually needs your good or service, that there's an actual market for it. So you just can't. There are companies that export by accident. Any company that has a website is an international company. Many companies will get an inquiry and they'll export to Canada by accident. They'll get an inquiry and they'll ship to somebody in Canada. They don't even know that's an export because we're so close. But many companies will export by accident, so to speak. But to do it on a business-like basis, you've got to go back to the basics, a business plan, a marketing plan, again, just so you're not wasting your time.
Well, now, some people, especially just getting started, might not be able to put that kind of document together. Do you have recommendations on organizations or people that could help them develop that plan?
Sure. For the businesses that have personnel, that have the time and the expertise, SBA does have on our website at www.sba.gov/international. You'll find a business plan tool there that they can use.
Okay.
There is the large network of small business development centers throughout the country. Many of those development centers have an international person, and their job is to do exactly that: take an established company, helping them go global by developing that business plan. So yes, there are resources. The U.S. Commercial Service at www.export.gov. They also have a business plan tool. But most companies getting started, most small businesses getting started, will use the small business development centers near them to help with their business plan. They can find those centers by going to SBA.gov and typing in their zip code, and they'll find the center near them to make an appointment.
Okay. Now, are these centers free, or do they cost a ton of money?
No, they're free.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and there's also the SCORE network. So those are retired business executives that donate their time for coaching. Typically, they're meeting with startups, pre-revenue organizations or companies. No, the SBDC, for the most part, is free. It depends. It's a 50-50 joint venture. So it's 50% from the state, usually university, and 50% funded by SBA. So a particular SBDC network in let's say Ohio, it may get to a certain point, and then there's fee for service at some point. But for the most part, we're talking about a free service.
Right, and I can do a shout out for SCORE because I've worked with them. I've worked with Walter Abbott, I don't know if you know him, and Dr. Paulson, and they were great. And I didn't have to pay a dime. It was very helpful. Let's see, this next question. Wow, does your company have sufficient production capacity that can be committed to the export market?
And that's a big. That's a big question a company needs to ask themselves. I would say on average, many companies either providing good or service, they're at least at 60 or 70% operating capacity. And they're always looking for, to fill that gap domestically.